Well, Fiona and Roy Castle, it is kind of you to have me in your house just a short while before Christmas.
You're very welcome. It was nice of you to clean the drive for me.
Fiona, lovely coffee you make. Thanks very much indeed. Listen, how good is Roy about his Christmas presents? Does he like to open them beforehand?
No, I don't let him because I hide them.
Where on earth can you hide them?
Well, I find my places, don't worry.
And he doesn't find them?
No.
That's good.
Well, he's never told me that he has.
She hides them under the soap, you know.
Roy, are you looking for anything special from Father Christmas this year?
Well, I'm hoping for a really good video recorder.
Are you?
Yes. I haven't got one. You know, I still haven't got one.
Will you know how to work it when you do get it?
Well, that's it. I've got a little bit of time off at Christmas, you see, so I can study the books and find out. And that's what I'm hoping for, so that I can get down to something serious.
Not a new musical instrument?
I think I'm trying to sell those now.
Do you remember that super time at Bournemouth when you were on the programme with Chicago Classic?
Yes.
You were going through all the instruments then. Which is your favourite?
Well, it's got to be the trumpet because I've put more time in at the trumpet. I wish I'd put more, of course, but I play that, I would say, best of the instruments that I mess about on. I don't really claim to play any of them as far as musicians are concerned, but as far as entertainment is concerned, I play a little bit in my cabaret act, you see.
And yet you got a standing ovation in Las Vegas with Frank Sinatra in the audience.
I know. Well, that's just because I came from his table. Yeah, sure.
So you warned them.
Yeah, right. I suppose I could have come from his table and played a Coleman paper and people would have applauded, you know. But that was a great thrill, yes.
Now, Fiona, in the Castle household, what is Christmas like? Bedlam?
It is. It's very noisy.
Is it?
And it's chaotic, and we never know who's going to be around. We normally have a lot of people here.
You've got 4 children of your own, haven't you?
Yes.
Are they all home for Christmas?
We hope so, yes. We've got one son who's at the moment in Germany, but he's hoping to be back.
And what about the decorating of the house? Who's in charge of that?
Don't look at me.
Well, it used to be a combined effort between me and the children, but I've asked the children this year and they're not that keen.
Aren't they? No, I think
It was left to Mum.
They've grown out of it, you see.
Yeah.
And also before, coming up to Christmas was murder for when you're doing pantomimes and things like that, because as you're rehearsing, trying to get a few television slots in as well. And so there really isn't any time for me to help with all the decorating.
Are you glad you don't do pantomime now, Roy?
Well, I gave up doing it because I realised that I was entertaining everybody's children except my own. And pantomime is marvellous. It's a really fun thing to do.
And theologically very sound. It's the triumph of good over evil.
Absolutely. Yes, right. But it's brain damage as well. You turn up there at lunchtime and you're there all day, and you eat turkey sandwiches and you can smell orange peel and nappies all the time, you know. But it's fabulous. It's a lot of fun. You always have a lot of fun with everybody in the cast. But you really have got to be totally dedicated to the show, and you have no private life at all. So,
Fiona, did you find it difficult when Roy was doing pantomime?
I think I found it difficult, but I accepted it because I knew it was what he had to do. But I did find that he didn't even have time to wrap any presents up at all, or even consider decorations. And by the time Christmas Day came, he was so exhausted that he hadn't any energy for games or fun at all.
Yeah, I'm the only Father Christmas who fell asleep at the tree.
Do you use music, Roy, though, to relax?
Oh, yes, I love all sorts of music if it's good quality. In all forms, I like it, yes.
Fiona, one thing we didn't cover before was what about the food situation?
At Christmas?
At Christmas.
I don't make a big fuss about food over Christmas. We tend to be careful anyway about what we eat. We're not big sort of pudding eaters or whatever. So Christmas dinner is always very special. And we've always had Christmas dinner at night, a candlelit dinner, and I've always been really interested in decoration and making it really special for everybody. And that's about our lot. But we entertain quite a lot, just family and friends.
Is it important to you to have friends popping in?
Yes, it is. We
Family
both
and
enjoy
friends,
that.
he says, just a few. There was about 30 here normally, isn't it?
Yes. Well, we never know. The children, now that they're older, they bring all their waifs and strays in with them, you know. We never know who's going to be here.
Fiona, how did you and Roy meet in the first place?
Well, it was through Eric Morecambe of Morecambe
Was it?
and Wise, yes. They were really good to me over the years. As a starving dancer, I used to go and spend weekends with them, and they filled me up so that I could starve for the rest of the week, you know. And one weekend I was there, and Roy came on the television, and in as casual a way as possible, I sort of said, "Oh, if ever you do a show with Roy, will you introduce me?" So Eric just sort of said yes and smirked.
Yeah, that's right. He thought, here's a good practical job.
And I didn't hear anything for well over a year. I just thought he'd forgotten. And then he suddenly rang me up and said, "I'm doing a television with Roy, would you like to come along?" So, of course, I said yes, and it was on a Sunday. I was in a show in London at the time. And I went with Joan, Eric's wife, and he was amazing. He took me into Roy's dressing room just before the show started, and in typical Eric fashion, he just said, "Roy, this is Fiona, she's in love with you," and then left.
Yeah, he walked
Roy,
out.
how did you react?
Well, you see, he'd said to me, now, my side of it is...
Because we don't gossip on this
Oh,
programme, you
good
know
heavens,
that.
no, good heavens, don't tell anybody
Oh,
this.
no.
But he said to me, he said, "Look," he said, "there's this kid dancer, she's a friend of our family, and she's a fan of yours. He said, I'm bringing her to the show. Be nice to her, you know. There's a good lad." And all this business. And then, of course, the next thing that happened was he wrote to her and he said, "This is Fiona, and she's in love with you." And went out, and of course, she had blonde hair in those days, didn't you, darling? And because she was in The Sound of Music. She didn't tell you that. She just said a show in the West End, you know. It was the original Sound of Music. That's the only time that in theatre they had black and white.
And was at the Palace.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, we went out that particular night, and then I dated her gradually and slowly, and
Very slowly.
yes,
Very
I know. But a year later, we were married exactly to the day, and we didn't plan that. But
And did Eric and Joan come to the wedding?
oh, yes, he said he likes a good laugh.
Roy, when you did date Fiona and you got married, where were you living at the time?
I was living in Sutton, in Surrey, very close to Harry Seacombe.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, and he was best man, of course.
Was he?
Yes. He
You
was
do live
best
dangerously.
man at the wedding, yes.
How super.
Yeah. And we're almost related now because I'm godfather to his son David, and then Jennifer is godmother to my son Daniel, and so on and so forth.
And Fiona, did you then give up show business?
Yes.
Did you mind doing that?
Not really, because I was still associated with it, and I'd always imagined that once I got married I would give it up. And Roy was working mostly in the States at the time when we got married, doing television over there. And I realised if I pursued my career, we'd see very little of each other, which I didn't think was a good idea.
But you don't regret it now?
Not at all, no.
It would have been better if I'd given it up.
But you'd have starved as well then.
But then bringing up the family, how easy was that?
Well, I have to tell you that that put the strains on, as it does in most families, and that it became very difficult at one stage. We had 4 young children, and Fiona didn't have much help, and Fiona was running the whole scene.
My problem was actually that I suffered from depression for many years, and so that I didn't find, although I coped with everything very well, because physically I've always had a lot of energy, so that didn't worry me, but emotionally I think I took a lot of strain because I felt very isolated because Roy was away such a lot.
That's a very important point. I mean, at Christmas time, a heck of a lot of people feel isolated and very much on their own, who seem to manage well during the rest of the year. Is there anything, Fiona, you'd like to say to them, do you think, or any hints you can give them?
Well, my life changed radically when somebody pointed out to me that although I'd been going to church all my life, I'd never actually asked Jesus to come into my life. And I'd really been going to church as a ritual rather than as a reality. There hadn't been much reality there. It was a sort of discipline. And she pointed out that it would make a difference. I couldn't imagine that it would at that time, but I was so desperate, and I realised that our marriage was failing dismally. I was failing dismally. I was absolutely at rock bottom, thinking, well, I'll try anything. And so I took that step, and it did.
It's sometimes when you are at rock bottom that you really, you reach out and something does help.
It was amazing.
And has that stayed with you since?
14 years, yes. It's just transformed my whole life.
And what difference do you feel it's made to the two of you as a marriage?
Oh, well, it was instant repair. It was a quick repair job. As far as I'm concerned, I felt the same thing. I felt it was going away from us. I felt that this wonderful thing that we had everything. We had 4 lovely children, we had a marriage, we had a wonderful home, and yet it wasn't working. Something wasn't working. And
That was me.
and suddenly Fiona disappeared. She said, I'm going out, because somebody had invited her to go and discuss this, you see. I thought she was going out. I thought, that's it, she's gone. Oops. Now what do we do? And then she came back a half an hour later, and it was just like a house had been redecorated, completely redecorated, as new. And she was the girl that I was courting in those early days. The one.
I mean, that must have been a fantastic feeling for both of you.
terrific.
And the children must have felt, isn't this gorgeous to have a
yeah.
family back like this again?
And she never said anything to me about it for a month. Then eventually she said, have you noticed any difference in me at all? And I said, no. But I'd noticed straight away, and I knew exactly what had happened. And it's the finest thing that's ever happened to us as a family. It's wonderful.
Now, the music of Christmas, how important is that to you, Roy?
Well, it's so important to me. My memory of the real good carols is of a little boy half asleep, knowing that Father Christmas was going to come, and hardly able to sleep, but gradually having to give in. And then the brass band, of which my granddad was the bandmaster, and 2 of my uncles played in it, used to come into our backyard. I lived in a terraced house, and so there were houses all around, and there was one communal backyard where we used to hang the washing on a Monday, the good drying day.
Yes.
And they used to come there. It would obviously be about 10 or 11 o'clock, which was in the middle of the night to me. And they used to play these lovely carols. The brass band, there's nothing finer than that to me, to hear these carols played in a state of half sleep. And that's my memory. And whenever these are played again...
It's still very thrilling how the Salvation Army go around playing carols. They've always taken the message of Christmas onto the streets, haven't they? Haven't you done a carol concert with the Salvation Army?
Yes. I was doing it just a few days ago at the Central Hall.
And Wexham Park Hospital, have you been to them as well?
Yes, I've got their carol concert as well at the hospital. I'm doing all sorts of carol concerts everywhere now. It's lovely, really.
But what about church on Christmas Day, on Monday morning? I mean, where will you be there?
Well, we'll be at Gold Hill Baptist Church, which is our normal place of worship. And it is actually going to be televised this year.
Yeah, live.
That'll put the skids under you.
Definitely tingle time for all our congregation, I think.
Do we know which company's televising it?
Well, listen now, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it's the BBC.
You are perfectly right. So that's absolutely right. We would have allowed the others because it's the season of goodwill. So what sort of service is it going to be?
It's just going to be our normal Christmas Day service. I don't think we're making any concessions, and it's going to be filled with children. All the children on Christmas Day bring their toys, and they are all allowed to sit right up at the front, and there's absolute bedlam. And our poor pastor is beside himself, concerned about what he's going to say to these children, and if he's going to pick the right one to talk to, and whether they'll suddenly go dumb on him, and he's quite worried about it.
Oh, they won't. Children do that. Roy, will you be doing anything in the service?
Yes, I'm going to be interviewing the people at Rock House, which is just over the road. They're the elderly folks who are attached to the church.
Because you're very good with the elderly, aren't you?
Oh, well, you see, I have a rapport. I'm good with you.
Quite right. But you bounced, I mean, for 18 years, you bounced through record breakers, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Well, I've been very fortunate there. I know that when we started it, I thought, well, if it runs 5 years, a children's programme, it could run forever because you could start again every 5 years. You've got new clients out there. But I didn't really think about it running 18 or... It's actually going on again next year, so that's 19 years. So it would be nice to make the 20 years of it. And
it'll be a record breaker in its own right.
Yes, indeed, yes. I've just beaten John Craven now because he stopped doing his news round, and so that was 17 years of news round. So we've just clipped another year onto that one. So I don't know whether I should have stayed that long with the programme or not. But I mean, it would have been perfectly obvious that it told me to get out of it, wouldn't they, if it hadn't been working?
Well, thinking of going for 20 years, I mean, we are coming up now to a new year and a new decade. Fiona, what are your hopes for 1990?
Oh, that's a difficult question, because obviously one has many hopes. I just take one day at a time, actually. I don't plan for the future at all anymore.
I think this world is going in the right direction now. It's beginning to love each other rather than be wary and hate each other. I think that if that message gets more and more across, that love will get the thing sorted out much quicker than hate. Hate will never solve any problem, but love will.
Fiona, Roy Castle, thanks very much indeed for letting me come into your home. And may I wish you a very happy Christmas and a very peaceful one.
Thank you, and the same to you and all your listeners.